Morning, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earth Watch. Wednesday, November 26, 2025. Let's have a quick talk about what's happening on our planet. No, not on our planet, underneath our planet. So we've had a geomagnetic instabilities, quite bad ones. We reached G4. Actually, we briefly spiked to G5. Those who use the proper tools of monitoring know we reached G5 recently. This was from the combination of the coronal mass ejections and the increased solar winds. Now people get on their bandwagon and they say, oh, there's going to be major earthquakes. There's going to be major earthquakes. It's not always the case, people. Okay. An earthquake is a release of energy, pressure. So when we have a geomagnetic storm, the highly charged particles are funneled into Earth's outer core through the magnetic cusps. And if you get enough, we have what's called outer core expansion. I've done this demonstration before. Let's do it again. So this is the outer core where our magnetic field is generated from. When we have geomagnetic instability, solar storms, we have a lot of additional of the highly charged particles funneled down into the outer core. Then we have what's called outer core expansion. It expands slightly. That's a magmatic related pressure. Now, anchored to the outer core, we have our hotspots or mantle plumes. Just pretend this is the arm or tail of a mantle plume, which comes to the underside of the lithosphere in which the crust sits upon. So when this expands, that harder magmatic material needs to find a path up through the mantle plumes. Here, and everywhere. Now, sometimes, yes, of course, we do have our earthquakes following geomagnetic storms, and you know who yours truly has a pretty fairly good, accurate method of showing where earthquakes are going to happen, but it's a magmatic related pressure, as it has been demonstrated. Let's go through what's happened since the last geomagnetic instabilities. We had the Semeru eruption in Indonesia. I know Indonesia. That's where my wife comes from, so obviously I watch it closely, but this was a more powerful earthquake than they normally have. Vanuatu, they have a lot more heavy concentrations of sulfur dioxide emission than they normally do, including the Solomons and the North Shore of Papua New Guinea. White Island has had some heat detections and some unrest. Southern Japan. This is all following the geomagnetic storms. There's a chain of volcanic islands north of Guam, Marianas. At least 2 are now emitting sulfur dioxide. I already did a video on Mauritius and St. Paul, which is offshore Mauritius. I showed you that they had a heat spread where there was heat normally, not, then an earthquake, and then sulfur dioxide emissions. Clear Lake, or the geysers, yes, they always have earthquakes, but they're gradually increasing in magnitude. Mauna Kea and Kilauea, but Mauna Kea today, 2 earthquakes, what was it, 4.7? The Mauna Kea earthquake is the general area where they had that wildfire. And then finally, the one that doesn't surprise me at all, been waiting for it, is the Ethiopia eruption, at least 12,000 years ago. As some of you know, I've been watching the bottom end of the Red Sea, the triple junction of the AFAR hotspot, for quite some time. When you watch these areas year after year after year after year, and you see them increasing in heat detections and seismic unrest, you know what to expect. So these are just some of the areas since the last geomagnetic storm that most people, pretty much everyone, they don't clue into. Okay. Solar storms increase cosmic rays energies. This is the outer core right now. You start funneling a whole lot of protons into it. That pressure's got to go somewhere. For those of you who are new, I will often do this. This is a mantle plume, which is anchored to the outer core of the planet where the magnetic field is generated from. It rises up through the two layers of the mantle plume tail, mantle plume head, as it comes to the underside of the lithosphere. It could be 1,000, 2,000 miles in diameter. I believe it has branches or arms or nodes pushing up underneath the lithosphere, in which our oceans and crusts sit upon. So it's a magmatic pressure, it's heat. So it's either going to escape through fractures, earthquakes, or my knuckles, or volcanoes. Boom booms. Such as we've been seeing. How long is this going to last for? We just had another solar wind stream. I believe it's around 800 kilometers per second yesterday from the last coronal hole opening. So the coronal hole opening releasing the faster solar winds containing the highly charged particles which gets funneled into our planet can be more detrimental than big CMEs hitting our planet and so forth. There's other factors to consider, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So again, Simeru, Java, Vanuatu, Solomons, Papua New Guinea, White Islands, Southern Japan, Marianas Chain of Volcanoes, Mauritius, St. Paul, Ethiopia, Mauna Kea. Pay attention to the Clear Lake volcanic field. The last major eruption was the onset of the Younger Dryas 10,950 years ago. If you take 3,650 times 3, that is 10,950. Hint, hint. Anyway, folks. As some have noticed, I'm going through some neurological issues. We'll sort through that later. I'm going cuckoo.